Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and welcome to part 2 of the Alliance Insight Release Roundup, where we cover all the new cards releasing in the TCG's latest core set and other related packs. If you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and give that a watch after this one to help keep your mental catalog of cards up to date. For now, let's pick things back up with part 11, Evil Twins. The last of the tactical tri-deck archetypes we'll be covering in this duology, the Twins archetypes have long been favored by the fan base for their tricky gameplay and strong resource management, not to mention their compatibility with a great many themes. And now, those cards are about to get even stronger. Live Twin Leela Sweet is a level 2 Dark Spellcaster monster with 500 attack and 0 defense, and when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your Live Twin card or effect activations as a quick effect, you can discard this card to negate that opponent's effect. And if you control a Kiss-a-Kill monster and this card is in your grave, you can special summon this card, but while it's face up in the monster zone, you can't special summon from the extra deck, except Fiend monsters, which is thankfully the typing of our Evil Twin monsters. So this one strikes me as a bit odd. See, we've got our Live Twins and the Evil Twins, and while the Evil Twins are the ones that will be doing the majority of our playmaking, the Live Twins are more focused on the setup, and Sweet only protects against responses to those cards. So if your opponent is wary of this and just saves all their interaction for the Evil Twins, this card doesn't do much. But that's not to say it's not totally at the whims of our opponent. Getting to revive this card while you have Leela's partner Kiss-a-Kill is an easy way to help ensure you get to climb the Link ladder through other disruptions. Overall, this is a pretty fancy addition, though may fall short in certain regards. It's a pretty sweet deal, but not that sweet. And speaking of deals, we also have Evil Twin Kiss-a-Kill Deal, a Link 1 Light Fiend monster with 100 attack, requiring any Kiss-a-Kill monster as material, and you can only Link summon copies of this card once per turn. It can send a Leela monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard to apply this effect this turn. Each time your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your Kiss-a-Kill or Leela monster effect activations, draw a card when that card or effect resolves. See, now that's a bit more comprehensive. All of the twins are either a Leela or a Kiss-a-Kill, so it's not like they couldn't have done that for Sweet, but I digress. How does the card actually hold up? It's fine, I think. It's easy enough to go into with any Kiss-a-Kill card, helping you to set up your grave, and you can even send Sweet to the graveyard immediately to get it into play, thereby giving you even more ways to push through interaction or just to extend. The bad news is that it sets up one of those nasty lingering floodgates we all hate so much, and it's a draw trigger too, just like Max C. Though, thankfully, this one isn't quite so egregious, as it's not a quick effect, so we only have to worry about it during our opponent's turn, and it only triggers when we try to respond to their cards. But that's still pretty bad. It's not as ubiquitous as special summoning to be sure, but interacting with the opponent is something you usually have to do to win the game, and now you're just giving them card draw for it? I don't know, this seems innocuous and I would say to keep an eye on them, but it does look like they're doing some work infiltrating the S-Force mainframe here. We've got their logo front and center, a window in the foreground that could either be a network map or a multi-dimensional one, and in the background, an image of what seems to be a prototype portaling device, so maybe we'll see the twins going on the same dimension hopping shenanigans as the S-Force have been doing? So instead of calling them out, hey, I didn't see anything if you didn't. Part 12, Gimmick Puppet. So Gimmick Puppet was a weird theme to get additional support for, huh? In an already tumultuous time in the game's history, the developers sprinkled in an FTK to make things spicy. But now, it's yesterday's news, and now we have to deal with the fallout. And by that, I mean the follow-up support that goes along with it, and this time, we've got an anime import. How fun! Gimmick Puppet Fiendish Knight is a level 4 Dark Machine monster with 1800 attack and 500 defense, and if it's in your hand, you can target a Gimmick Puppet monster in your graveyard or any monster in your opponent's grave, and you special summon the targeted card to its owner's field, but negate its effects, then special summon this card from your hand. And if it's sent to the graveyard from anywhere other than the hand, you can add this card to your hand, but you can't special summon from the extra deck during the turn you use either of these effects, except Gimmick Puppet monsters. Yeah, it's just that simple. This can let you bring back a Gimmick Puppet and put itself onto the board while doing so. So if you want a no-fuss Chimera doll in the middle of a combo, Fiendish Knight's got you covered. Or even a Gigantus doll if you're going second, because that double change of heart is pretty nasty in the right situation. But we can also mess with our opponent too. If they have a monster in their graveyard that you really don't want them to have there, you can just bring it back instead so it isn't a threat. Bonus if it's an Xyz monster, cause then we can aim Giant Grinder at it to deal a ton of damage to our opponent. You know, typical Gimmick Puppet stuff. This also has the benefit of shutting off cards like Lightning Storm or Infinite Impermanence. And does that second effect seem familiar to you? It should. Rouge Doll has the same effect, and that's half the reason it's such a powerful enabler for the theme. And the same can be said now for Fiendish Knight. Once we link it off for Chimera Doll or detach it, we get it right back so we can use it again later. Or heck, we can even indirectly search it by using Foolish Barrier or Condolence Puppet. No matter what game plan you pursue with Gimmick Puppets, this is sure to make your play sequences all the more fiendish. Part 13. Heraldic Beasts. Oh hey, another member of the Arclight family has joined the episode. You know, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think anyone in R&D cared enough about Heraldic Beasts to even try to make some new support for it, but I guess that's egg on my face, huh? This means we've gotten legacy support for every member of the Arclight family, except Quentin's Dyson Sphere deck, but that's barely an archetype anyway, so whatever. Back when I covered Heraldic Beasts, I gave them a scathing review thanks to their lack of originality. Rank 4 spam decks are a dime a dozen after all, and didn't have anything that set them apart. Not to mention, they were so hyper-focused on punishing Xyz monsters that it didn't age well when the game moved on from them over a decade ago. And now I have to grapple with the fact that means that Zexal was over a decade ago, and I can feel my DNA tearing at the seams. But now, it has one of the funniest gimmicks in the whole game, so let's see if this new support helps to bring us up to speed. Heraldic Beast Griffin is a level 4 winged beast monster with 1600 attack and 1000 defense, and is based on a griffin, a mythical flying beast, and one of the most commonly found charges in heraldry. You can send a Heraldic Beast monster from your deck to the grave other than a copy of this card to special summon this card from your hand, but you can't special summon from your extra deck for the rest of the turn except for Xyz summons using only monsters whose original names include Heraldic Beasts and number as material. And it can be treated as 2 materials when being used in an Xyz summon for a number monster that requires 3 or more material. Now, for those of you who are unaware, it's time for me to school you in a little bit of the game's jargon. If you've got a monster that can special summon itself from the hand by sending another member of its archetype from the deck to the graveyard as a cost, not the effect, you've got yourself a Math Mech Circular. Well, it looks like Heraldic Beasts have joined the club. And, just like with Circular, we have a perfect monster to send to graveyard to set up their effect, Leo. Just bin it for the cost and it searches you a monster to replace the Griffin in your hand. Although, it does put that restriction on you that robs you of using certain main deck tech picks as material, which can be frustrating, especially if you dropped a small fortune on a Ryzeal package. It's also vexing that this does keep you off of Gravity Controller, arguably the best way to send a Patriarch to the grave and kickstart your plays. But thankfully, it's only for the rest of the turn, so make sure to stack up all those off-theme monsters first before you throw down Griffin. And this also takes after Drake Shark by acting as double material for a number monster that normally takes 3 material to make, expanding your toolbox quite nicely. Which also means that if Griffin is one of the target's fort, we can use Advanced Heraldry Art to go into 3 material rank 4 numbers. This is, of course, meant to make it easier to summon Heraldry Crest, but we can also go for Masquerade if you want to block an effect in the battle phase, or Shark Drake, which you can then slap Levace on top of to close things out or act as disruption, along with many, many more. But keep in mind that this effect can only be used once per turn, so you can't overlay 2 of them to make a 4 material rank 4, foreshadowing by the way. Despite the restrictions in place, Griffin does a great job of accelerating Heraldic's game plan, and it makes me very thankful that Shockmaster is still rightfully banned. Hey, rule of thumb, if anyone, and I mean anyone out there says they can be trusted to use Shockmaster responsibly, what they really mean is, I can't be trusted with any Yu-Gi-Oh card. Heraldic Beast Stad Whale is a level 4 water fish monster One of these days, Konami's actually gonna make a whale monster that's an aqua type, then they'll be sorry! With 900 attack and 1900 defense, which is based on the whale seen on the coat of arms of Zaanstad, a municipality in the north of the Netherlands. If it's normal or special summoned, you can discard a card to add 2 Heraldry Spell or Trap cards from your deck to your hand, and you can banish this card from your graveyard to target 2 Heraldic Beast monsters in your grave with the same name as each other, and special summon both of them in defense position. Also, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except by Xyz summons using Heraldic Beast and number monsters as material. Heraldic Beasts have never really had a monster that demanded your normal summon, but Stad Whale has easily become our Alistair. In fact, seeing it is so important that it's not actually a bad idea to tech in some copies of Beautiful Princess in order to do so. Who knew that Konami's utter incompetence in marine biology would actually come in handy? Anyway, while our field spell and our trap cards leave a lot to be desired, the rest that we have vary in quality, from decent to really good. The two that we'll probably be searching for the most are Advanced Heraldry Art to effectively Xyz summon out of the graveyard, and Charged Up Heraldry, which, thanks to the introduction of some new archetypal bosses and Sakura Vindaraj, a TCG exclusive rank 4 psychic which just feels custom made for Heraldics, has become a much more viable enabler. So the fact that Whale can get you both of these for just a single discard is ridiculous, even if it does have the side effect of apparently turning every card in your opponent's hand into an Ash Blossom, or an Imperm, or a Veiler. But it doesn't end there. Its Grave effect can get you into another rank 4 play like it's nothing, making for a great backup plan in case you get interrupted. And this isn't hard to set up either. You just send number 18 to the graveyard, and you can bin the 2 copies of the monster you need right from your deck. With how much utility this card can provide, it's gonna make playing this deck a whale of a time. Number 69, nice. Heraldry Crest Shatterstream is a rank 4 light psychic Xyz monster with 2800 attack and 1600 defense, requiring 4 level 4 monsters as material. But you can also Xyz summon this card by using a card whose original name is number 69, nice again, Heraldry Crest, as material, transferring over all of its material. Thankfully, it's worded this way, so if you ever use the original's effect to change its own name, you can still make this using it. And when a monster effect is activated on your opponent's field, or your opponent's monster declares an attack as a quick effect, you can special summon a copy of number 69 Heraldry Crest Dark Matter Demolition from your extra deck by using this card you control as material, then destroy that opponent's monster. And that summon is treated as a legit Xyz summon, transferring over all of its materials. We're not going to get the full context of this card until we examine Dark Matter Demolition, but this card still has a few things that are worth going over before we move on. Thanks to the alternate summoning condition, that massive material requirement is actually a cakewalk. Just overlay Griffin and any other Heraldic Beast into the original Heraldry Crest, and then you can just throw this on top. Though it is entirely possible to hard make this with 3 material as long as one of them is Griffin. And that's not as difficult as it used to be. Or heck, if your Heraldry Crest gets destroyed before you can establish Shatterstream, thanks for nothing, Ghost Ogre, just bring it right back with Unicorn's Grave effect. In any case, Shatterstream isn't as hard to summon as it seems. This reactive effect is incredibly telegraphed, but if we're talking about just monster effects, then it's even harder to play around than SP Little Knight, since your opponent can't just prematurely jump into the battle phase to get around it. And believe me, the payoff is more than worth it. Summoning another evolution of the funny number and smashing a monster while it does so. Suggestive wordplay very much intended. But I think I've teased this for long enough, so let's move along to number 69, nice thrice, Heraldry Crest Dark Matter Demolition, a rank 4 light psychic Xyz monster with 3100 attack and 1900 defense, requiring 5 level 4 monsters as material, but let's be reasonable, you're probably just gonna summon it using Shatterstream's effect. It can't be destroyed by battler card effects, and once per turn as a quick effect, you can detach a material from this card and target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and its name becomes unknown permanently. And whenever a monster effect activated by your opponent resolves, if that monster's name is unknown, that effect is negated. So back in Heraldic Beasts Explained, when I was still doing Nova scores during the video, I gave the theme a 1 in awesomeness, which I reserved the right to change after new support came out. Something I thought would never actually happen. But we've run into another classic situation of Nova hubris, and I gotta be honest, I'm changing it to 5. The concept was touched upon in the anime, but we've never never actually seen this kind of effect literally strip a monster's name away. Almost like you're ousting a member of the family, something I'm sure Vectrex would be more than pleased to do. By itself, this effect is a nifty piece of monster negation, similar in terms to Dragostapelia with a few key tweaks, which also pops a monster when it hits the field courtesy of Shatterstream, which would already be appreciated, but it can actually jam up certain play sequences in an extremely funny way as well. Let's say your opponent has committed to the summon of a particular monster who they plan to use to make another monster whose name is a key component in that recipe. Well, you can fire off Dark Matter's effect to take away that name, and if they don't have any spare monsters they can summon, well, they're stuck. To say nothing of decks that require specifically named monsters. I'm thinking Cyber Dragons, I'm thinking Adventure Tokens, all that stuff. And the fact that Dark Matter has a protection effect that's comparable to Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, you've got yourself a terrifying monster to be sitting across from. The original number 69 was a strict downgrade from the anime counterpart, so it's a great relief to have something that actually embodies how much of a threat it was supposed to be. Just like the original, it'll shatter your opponent's dreams and demolish their game plan. Flash of Heraldry is a quick play spell card that targets any number of face-up monsters your opponent controls, and their names become unknown permanently. And during the end phase, if this card is in your grave while you control a Psychic Xyz monster, you can set this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. While this card doesn't do anything to advance your game plan, it can bolster it brutally. Dark Matter Demolition gets extra negates of multiple monsters on your opponent's field once you take all of their names away, which is already pretty snazzy. But Flash can do something miraculous here. It makes the destruction effect of number 18 Heraldry Patriarch actually usable. You flip Flash over, then target as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. Once it resolves, you activate Patriarch's quick effect, then blow up all but one of the monsters that you targeted with Flash, because they all have the same name now. And don't forget, both Flash and Patriarch are not once per turn, so if you have multiple copies of Flash set, you can do it again. Unfortunately, you won't ever get Patriarch's summon block effect by doing this, since your opponent will never have any monster named Unknown outside of the field, but I'm sure that's something some further support could address, and honestly, not adding another floodgate to the game ain't too terrible. And, to top it all off, Flash also resets itself if you control one of your archetypal rank 4s. Or, heck, even having Sakura Vindaraj will let you reset it. You see what I mean when I say this was made specifically for the deck? So as long as your board's established, you'll always be able to wreck your opponent's game plan in a flash. Part 14. Maliss. Of the crossover breaker archetypes, I feel like Maliss was the obviously outrageous one. Great typing and attribute, plays outrageously well with the banishment, has lots of fantastic self-contained combos, and now they get even more support. But, you know, secondary waves like this are usually pretty underwhelming, so this will be similar, right? Maliss P. March Hare is a level 3 Dark Cyberse monster with 600 attack and 300 defense, and your opponent can't target Maliss Link monsters that point to this card with card effects. During the main phase, if this card is in your hand as a quick effect, you can banish one other Maliss card from your hand or grave, and if you do, special summon this card. And if this card is banished, you can pay 300 life points, then target one of your banished Maliss monsters and add it to your hand. Notably, this does not exclude itself, so you can just have March Hare add itself back to the hand to reset the loop, making it a very strong card for banishing our cards at will, while also being a good target for being banished, which translates to our Link monsters getting their nonsense on demand, and more trap cards being enabled more swiftly. And then it just randomly provides targeting protection for your bosses if it stays on the field, so, you know, that's nice. But for the love of God, it is not late. Stop saying that March Hare is late. Don't put it in the paper that they were late. Maliss in the Mirror is a quick play spell card that targets a face-up monster your opponent controls, and you banish a Maliss monster from your hand or face-up field, and if you do, negate that monster's effects until the end of the turn. If this card is banished, you can target a Maliss card in your grave and banish it, and if you do, add a Maliss card of the same type, monster, spell, or trap, from your deck to your hand. This is pretty goofy, so we've got a card that covers negating monsters while also banishing our stuff, which in turn we can negate to search for more cards by banishing more of our cards. It's just a big pile of banishing enablers. It's great. Now generally, a lot of our cards only banish Maliss monsters, but thankfully we have Underground, Chessy Cat, White Binder, and other copies of Mirror to help enable this. It's overall a very powerful tool to have in our arsenal, though it makes sense when one of your forms is wielding the true freaking Monado. How did White Binder get their hands on that? Part 15, Materiactor. Hey, we didn't have to wait 3 more years for more support this time! Neat. This theme puts a unique spin on the tired old rank 3 spam strategy by both incorporating vanillas and by scooping up the cards that end up under our bosses, rather than sending them to the grave. But the fact that support was pretty much non-existent until just last set meant that it didn't get to see any action, but now it looks as though the tables are finally turning. Prima Materiactor is a level 3 light dragon normal pendulum monster with 0 attack and defense, and a scale of 1. As a pendulum scale, Xyz monsters you control gain 100 attack for each Xyz material on the field, and you can target a Materiactor Xyz monster you control to attach this card to it as material, then draw a card. It's an alien life form that suddenly flew in from the heavens far away. Many researchers have tried to determine its true identity, but its luminosity and the miasma emitted have long shrouded its existence in mystery, making it extremely difficult to see the full extent of its existence. Recently, however, a number of new species have been discovered by up-and-coming researchers, and it appears that the full extent of the species' existence is finally being revealed. Implications of even more future support aside, Materiactors finally have their own normal monster, which is pretty big. We're not lacking in ways to access level 3 vanillas as it is, but actually having one on theme that we can grab with Zeptwing or Meltdown in case we need one to continue our combo is extremely handy. And even though Prima is a vanilla, it still comes with its own effect by dint of being a pendulum monster. 100 attack per material on board doesn't seem like a consequential buff, but don't forget that Meltdown is attaching materials to your monsters from your deck pretty much every other second, as is another new addition to the theme coming up, so that buff can stack up fast. Not to mention it's for each Xyz monster that we have, so yeah, we're putting in some damage. Not to mention that all of that doubles if you scale 2 Primas together, but failing that, this can net you a draw and recharge a material onto one of your Materiactor Xyz monsters. And that's just the icing on the cake. The real mechanical benefit is that it's extremely helpful for enabling Exiguard, since it needs to put a Materiactor card from underneath it back into your hand to use its effect to react to your opponent's summoning. If we make it with a 1-card Terror Top combo, it's not actually much of a threat. So slipping Prima underneath it gets this effect online, while getting you that nifty draw, and getting Prima ready to scale again on a following turn when you put it back into your hand. And while we can't do so with on-theme cards alone, we can now Pendulum Summon. And there's plenty of level 3 normal pendulums we can lean on for that. Ryzeal, the summoner, stands out as a way to adjust levels on the fly if you're able to get a tuner onto the board for some synchro plays, as long as we don't lock ourselves into Xyz monsters. Not to mention, it's a target for emergency teleport. And while Sea Dragoons of Draconia's pendulum effect is rather situational, it can put another vanilla onto the board during the battle phase. Plus, it's a Sea Serpent, meaning that there's some Ryu-Ge synergies to be had here. Ryu-Ge Warzone doesn't lock you out of dragons, as it turns out, which all comes together to make Prima pretty primo. Materiactor Melt Through is a field spell card that excavates the top 6 cards of your deck when it resolves, then you can place those cards back on top of your deck in any order. Once per turn, you can pay 1500 life points to Xyz summon a Materiactor Xyz monster by using any single level 3 normal monster as material, but you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck for the rest of the turn, except Xyz monsters. And if a monster is Xyz summoned, you can attach the top card of your deck to a Materiactor Xyz monster you control as material. Oh boy, a 1-card Xyz summon enabler? I can feel the Zodiac PTSD kicking in already. Well, thankfully we can only use this on level 3 vanilla, so it's not that egregious. Plus, we're restricted to only summoning Materiactor Xyz monsters right now. And while Exiguard is objectively really good, you're probably just trying to make that the normal way rather than faffing around by committing your normal summon to a vanilla. And our only other option at time of recording is Gigaboros, which feels suboptimal unless you have a huge hand to power it up. So for now, we're probably not going to be using this effect all the time. But make sure to keep an eye on it, you never know what future waves of support will unleash. For the rest of the card, it's basically just more copies of Meltdown, although Melt Through doesn't come with the luxury of being able to add a Materiactor that we find out of our top 6. However, if we combine it with Prima, we can stack any card we want out of the 6 that it excavates and use Prima's Pendulum effect to draw into it. We can technically do the same with Meltdown, but hey, if it ain't broke. It even has the material stacking effect of Meltdown, only this time it's tied to Xyz summons rather than effect activations, so we can build up materials even faster in conjunction with Meltdown, both to send our Xyz monster's attack points through the roof with Prima's buff, and for making a Zeus with tons of ammo. It's a combo so hot, it's gonna cause some nuclear fusion. But not like actual fusion, that would be confusing to have around the Xyz deck. Not that Pillick didn't already try. Check out the custom card videos, by the way, they're pretty fun. Part 16, Red Dragon Archfiend. Making their second-ish appearance in this duology, it's time for one of the Signer Dragons to get another random support card that's an anime reference. Yippee! Soul Fist is an equipped spell card that can only be equipped to a dragon synchro monster that you control. Red Dragon Archfiends equipped with this card are unaffected by your opponent's activated effects, and once per turn, during your main phase, you can make the attack of all monsters your opponent currently controls become equal to the equipped monsters. And once per turn, when an attack is declared involving the equipped monster, you can target one monster in your opponent's grave and banish it. And if you do, the equipped monster gains attack equal to that banished monster's attack until the end of the turn. So right off the bat, making your RDAs a tower is pretty slick. Changing your opponent's monster's attack to yours seems pretty counterintuitive, but this makes it so every monster is eligible to get flatlined by Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, including monsters that would normally be bigger than it. And then you just randomly get to spike its attack whenever it battles while throwing in some graveyard hate. It's got a lot to like, I just wish I liked it more. While it provides a lot of utility, none of it helps to get your game plan online, and in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You really need to make sure every card has the ability to get you into the game. And like, I'm me, I've gotta bring this up here, you can't call it Soul Fist and then make the symbol heart-shaped. Yeah, those two kind of overlap in terms of symbolism, so it's not necessarily wrong, but Heart Fist is just as cool. If you're gonna put a heart tattoo on it, then call it the Heart Fist. Jeez. Part 17, Ryu-Ge. I don't know about you, but I've been pretty hyped for this section. Ryu-Ge is the often forgotten third archetype of the crossover breakers trio. And seeing how both of its companion themes, Ryzeal and Maliss, seem to be able to play through an absurd amount of disruption while this one keels over after only getting hand-trapped once, that's not really a surprise. In fact, it's been something of a laughingstock among the player base because of how underpowered it was on release compared to the others. But with a little help from Alliance Insight, it's finally coming in swinging. And hey, the Ryu-Ge core only costs about $30 during pre-order season, as opposed to several $100, so who's laughing now? Tensei Ryu-Ge Anva is a level 10 Dark Dragon Pendulum monster with 3000 attack, 2100 defense, and a scale of 11. While it's a pendulum scale, you can only pendulum summon Ryu-Ge monsters, an effect that cannot be negated, and when an opponent's card or effect resolve that was chained to the activation of your Ryu-Ge spell card or effect, you can negate that effect, then destroy this card. As a monster, you contribute a Ryu-Ge monster from your hand or field other than a copy of this card to special summon it from your hand. If this card is special summoned, you can target a card on the field and destroy it, and if this card is destroyed, you can place a Ryu-Ge continuous spell or trap card from your deck, graveyard, or banishment onto the field face up. It looks as though Ryu-Ge has been copying Ryzeal's homework lately. Anva's pendulum effect is very reminiscent of Ryzeal Cross, as it negates effects without even activating. Although Anva isn't quite as powerful as it only punishes your opponent for chaining to your spells and nothing else. The weird part is that it doesn't even work to protect half of your continuous spells because that half confers an effect to the requisite monsters, thus making it a monster effect. It's kind of messed up. But honestly, it's still a godsend, even though the range of effects it can actually insulate is pretty limited. That's because Ryu-Ge's most glaring choke point was Mistva's pendulum effect, and in either of Warzones. Both of them get folded by almost any form of interaction, and Anva can easily protect both of those linchpin spells from being interrupted by, well, almost anything. But unfortunately, Droll and Lockbird is still kryptonite to Ryu-Ge, even with Anva's protection, since it won't necessarily be chained to a spell effect. However, there is a workaround we can use here. With Anva in your scales, you can activate Warzone first, distributing your bad dragons however you see fit. Once that's resolved, you still have priority on spell speed 2 effects as the turn player, so before your opponent can use Droll, activate Ryu-Ge Rising to add Mistiva to your hand, and then toss it straight into your extra deck. That way, if they try to Droll you here, it's being chained to a spell effect, and thus, Anva can negate it, and even if they hold the Droll until after Rising resolves, the lingering Floodgate effect doesn't matter anymore because Warzone Summon effect is online. And let's also not forget that Ryu-Ge can now make a complete Pendulum scale with just on-theme cards now. Granted, we can only ever Pendulum Summon Ryu-Ges, but that's probably for the best. Lord knows what floodgates would be opened by giving all our associated type access to such a wide scale. And we haven't even acknowledged the monster effects yet. Unlike the rest of our main deck monsters, Anva doesn't need to meet any conditions to be summoned by its own effect, so it's far less bricky than the others tend to be, especially when you're unlucky enough to have opened with one of the realm spells in your hand. But just tribute one of those other monsters and Anva drops out of your hand, takes out a card on the field, and triggers Mistiva in the extra deck when it does so, provided you popped a monster. Not to mention that Anva can even target itself with that summon effect, and enable its last effect to deploy one of our continuous spell cards or our new continuous trap card from anywhere. And if all that wasn't enough, this is a Ryu-Ge Pendulum monster, meaning that it gets the granted effects of all of your Ryu-Ge realms. And it's a dragon with a stat line that makes it a valid target for Melody of Awakening Dragon. So now, Melody can add both Anva and Mistiva to your hand while getting you halfway to Emva's Summon from Grave effect. This is a phenomenal piece of support that covers the majority of Ryu-Ge's weaknesses and ties the whole archetype together. But if I had to complain about anything, I do wish that the hand summon effect was a quick effect so that we could use it as a disruptive tool. But hey, Ryu-Ge Rivalry can handle that, something we'll get into in just a moment. So Anva not being a quick effect isn't the end of the world, but you know what is the end of the world? Ryu-Ge End, a continuous trap card that prevents your opponent from targeting Ryu-Ge monsters you control with card effects. If you have a face-up Ryu-Ge Pendulum monster in your extra deck or on your field, you can shuffle 2 Ryu-Ge monsters from your hand, grave, and or banishment into the deck to target a monster on the field and destroy it. And if this card is destroyed, you can set a Ryu-Ge non-continuous trap card directly from your deck, grave, or banishment. Now this is fun. The targeting protection is pretty nice, insulating the granted effects of our realms from all manner of interactions. And this is especially useful for Mistiva and Anva, because they gain a lot of effects from those realms. So this makes them very high value targets for infinite impermanence, and not having to worry about that is great. But that's not the main event here. While Anva helps with the irksome fragility of our on-theme starters, and solves a problem which isn't quite as in your face, but can still be crippling. Warzone is an outrageously powerful card. However, the search, send, and banish on activation is mandatory, and that means that if you're all out of the 3 bad dragon types in your deck, then you're kinda screwed, because it means that you can't even activate Warzone at all. But End can sort that out for you without any trouble, recycling 2 monsters so that you can replay Zone while wiping out a threatening monster at the same time. And this will often trigger Mistiva in your extra deck, who can swap this out for one of our realms, while triggering the last effect to set a new trap in its place. Now currently, the only non-continuous trap card we have available is Ryu-Ge Rivalry, which wasn't great until we got Anva. Flip Rivalry on your opponent's turn to summon Anva, which can then interrupt your opponent by blasting one of their cards off the field. Then, if you can find a way to destroy Anva, Mistiva and Varudris are very good at this by the way, its on-destruction effect will place End back onto your field, which can reset the Rivalry from your grave or banishment when it gets destroyed again, so this is a loop. Although the number of times you can repeat this cycle does tend to be limited by the number of Anvas you have available to summon, as Rivalry can't summon from the face-up extra deck. But hey, we can Pendulum Summon in Archetype now, so it's probably not going to be too hard to maintain. Weave this card into your Ryu-Ge combos, and it's sure to bring a swift end to the duel. Part 18, Ryzeal. And from one crossover breakers theme to another, we've got the theme that was maybe gonna be really good, and it turned out it was really, really good. It turns out going all in on probably the game's most boring but reliable subset of cards has its perks. But this time the second wave of support won't be that good. Right? Star Ryzeal is a level 4 light pyro monster with 1800 attack and 0 defense that you can special summon from your hand by detaching a material from a monster you control. If summoned this way, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except rank 4 Xyz monsters, and you can only special summon copies of this card once per turn this way. If this card is special summoned, you can set a Ryzeal spell or trap card from your deck. So now we have a 5th name for our swarming level 4s, and this one gets all of our support spell and trap cards without having to go to the extra deck, and this is bonkers. Granted, the special summon is contingent on you having an Xyz monster, which means you would have to have accessed the extra deck at some point, but it means you don't necessarily have to go into Duo Drive to make it happen. Or heck, it's a good backup to Duo Drive. Detaching the material for its search effect is part of that effect, so if it gets negated, it gets to keep the material, which you can then convert into a star summon to grab the card anyway. Honestly, just a fantastic addition to the theme. It truly is the star of the show. Ryzeal Mass Driver is a normal trap card that applies the following effect when activated, then you can attach this card to a rank 4 Xyz monster that you control. That effect being, for the rest of the turn, all Ryzeal monsters you control gain 1000 attack, and if this card is sent to the grave except from the field, you can target a card in your opponent's grave and banish it. This is just a solid piece of support. 1000 attack to all Ryzeals can get pretty scary, especially if you don't condense them into Xyz monsters to make a wide field of little Ryzeals. But I mean, that's about as scary as the card gets. Recharging your Xyz material and having a little bit of Grave Hate is nice. Grave Hate, which you get from detaching that material, which is very funny, but isn't exactly backbreaking. It's useful, but the scariest thing about this card is that it reminds me of another scary card. I think frogs are still mourning the loss of their best win condition. Part 19. 6 Samurai. Okay, who told Kizan? I told y'all not to tell him back in Rage of the Abyss, but you did it anyway, huh? Now we've got to give him a synchro now too. Are you happy? I mean, I am, but if I give up my frustrated toning cadence, then the whole comedic aura falls apart. Legendary Lord 6 Samurai Kizan is a level 6 Earth Warrior Synchro monster with 1800 attack and 800 defense, requiring generic material. While on the field, 6 Samurai monsters you control gain 600 attack and defense during the battle phase only, and during your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can banish a 6 strike card from your graveyard, then target a card on the field and destroy it. And if you control 2 or more 6 Samurai monsters, you can special summon this card from the grave. And it doesn't even banish itself afterwards when you do so you can keep doing this turn after turn after turn as long as you meet that requirement. And what a card it is! The stab boosting only being active during the battle phase is strange, normally, but has a lot of implications for our theme specifically, as matching attack values are very important for effects like aestheticism. So having a boost that only activates during the battle phase helps us to maintain those combos while still getting the benefits. Heck, it may even open up options during the battle phase, though notably, Kizan only boosts 6 Samurai monsters. Anishi could boost all warriors, but Kizan's removal is far more flexible, letting you utilize your 6 strike cards in the graveyard as an eruption, while Anishi's Mega Bounce was only usable on summon. Honestly, I think my favorite thing about this is that we have a synchro non-tuner that can reborn itself, making it great material for some of the game's best synchro monsters. The new Kizan is a fantastic addition to the game, but I wish we didn't see him from the front like this. It's very upsetting. Part 20. Skull Servant. What can I say about this archetype that hasn't already been said? It's Skull Servant! You either love the fact that you're playing 37 copies of the same card, or you have bad taste. Let's see what these new round of cards have in store for him. Moisa White is a level 1 dark zombie monster with 300 attack and 200 defense. Am I only just now realizing that Skull Servant and Karibo share an iconic stat line? Whose name becomes Skull Servant while in the grave. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Skull Servant or a card that mentions it from your deck to your hand, except a copy of itself. Also, you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except zombie monsters. And during your main phase, you can normal summon a level 4 or lower zombie monster in addition to your normal summoner set. Good lord, this is a radical pile of effects. Normal summon this, grab a Skull Servant adjacent monster, and then you can normal summon that one too. Honestly, I'm surprised the limitation in place is so generous. Skull Servant decks can certainly benefit from the larger zombie support pool, but as far as monsters you want to be fielding, we generally want to focus on the Skull Servant monsters themselves. So it really could have just been an archetype lock, and I don't think it would have been a problem, but I guess it would cost a lot of ink to print a big convoluted sentence that only let you summon Skull Servant related monsters, so I'm just gonna let Sleeping Skulldog Marins lie. But yeah, it's hard to get into more detail than this. It's just a solid support card that does a lot of good things for you, especially since all of our threats are pretty easy to normal summon anyway. Looking at you, King. Probably the most interesting fact about this card is that it is a reference. Not that that's unique among Skull Servants, I mean look at Whitesworn, but that references a fan favorite archetype that had a huge impact on the meta. This card references Moisa Knight the Comet General, a pendulum support card from just 2 years ago that, I mean, also helps you get cards out of your hand, so they're kinda similar in that respect. I'm sorry, did someone form a Moisa Knight fan club when I wasn't looking? Cause you know, maybe they should if they haven't already. Look at that armor set, it's like I'm playing White Knight Chronicles all over again. White Reanimator is a continuous spell card that lets our King of Skull Servants inflict piercing battle damage, and once per turn you can target a Skull Servant or King of the Skull Servants in your grave, then send a Skull Servant or a monster that mentions it from your deck to the grave, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster. Also, you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except zombie monsters. Once again, not really a problem restriction. So wow, they really wanted these cards to be good this set, huh? One of the big downsides of King of the Skull Servants is that it's ridiculously easy to get this guy big enough to deal lethal damage in a single skeletal punch, but it's very easy to play defensively against it. Now with Reanimator, no defense position monster will be able to blunt the force of your attacks. Though if that was the only thing that it did, I'd say we're just better off using more removal cards. But it's also a way to revive our kings and the associated Skull Servant monsters, as well as filling our grave with even more of them. This means you can send White Prince to send even more cards, or better yet, send White Baking to add 2 Skull Servant related cards to your hand, and then discard a card. And if you discarded Prince, then you can do all that stuff I talked about earlier. Zombie Master is gonna have a romp with this one, and it's another avenue for everyone to keep making white jokes, which honestly, very valid. Part 21, Union. We're ending this roundup with a doozy. The Legendary Duelist pack featuring light archetypes has finally seen some of its cards be released to the TCG as part of the Maze of the Master release, and that includes a glut of new light Union monsters mainly focused on XYZ Dragon Cannon retrains. And with ABC Dragon Buster in their roster, they've got some big shoes to fill. Let's see how successful they ended up being. X-Cross Cannon is a level 4 light machine monster with 1800 attack and 1500 defense, and if you control a light machine fusion monster or a union monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. During your main phase, you can equip an appropriate light machine union monster from your deck to this card as an equipped spell, as if it was equipped by that monster's effect. Also, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except light monsters. So you get a free body on board that gets you one of a large pool of unions. But even if you have to normal summon this, X-Cross is outrageously powerful, largely because of a line of text it doesn't have. Previously, cards with similar effects to this have been reluctant to allow you to summon the monster that you just equipped, usually saying the equipped monster can't be special summoned that turn. But X-Cross has no such stipulation, so you can immediately field whatever you equip, and there are some nonsense cards you can get. Not only do we have our companion retrains, we've also got the ABC component monsters, with Buster Drake being the out-and-out favorite, as sending it to the graveyard will net you another Union monster from your deck. Not to mention, gathering the material for ABC Dragon Buster is pretty stellar. In fact, it's been at the forefront of a lot of new combos, so kudos for making the leap. But no matter what, this card still has nothing on the original. Unlike the vanilla version, this one's got no head. These next two are ones we're going to talk about together because they are pretty similar. Yare Head is a level 4 light machine union monster with 1500 attack and 1600 defense with all the usual union text, able to equip to any machine monster you control. And if this card is special summoned, you can equip a level 4 light machine monster from your hand or grave to this card as an equipped spell, regardless of if it's a union or not, but you also can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except light monsters. Meanwhile, Zillion Tank is a level 4 Light Machine Union monster with 1500 attack and 1300 defense with identical text, except its on special summon effect equips a banished level 4 Light Machine to it as an equipped spell. The general idea here is to equip either of these to X-Cross using its effect, then utilize their Union effect to special summon them to the field, thus triggering their special summon effect to equip another appropriate card. Yare is here to grab stuff that's still waiting in the graveyard loading zone, while Zilean can grab you cards that have been used as material for your fusion monsters. And once again, what better cards to grab than the ABC components so we can keep utilizing their effects when they go to the grave? Hey, did you know that B Buster Drake doesn't have a once per turn on it? But they're not the only one. There are no hard once per turns on either of these cards, with the only soft-ish once per turn coming from the Union equip and or special summon effect. And like with X-Cross, none of these equip effects prevent you from special summoning what you equip. So if you can keep doing that, you can keep flooding the field with material, and that's a very dangerous and powerful place to be at. But what the heck is up with these names here? Zilean I can get behind, it's a big cool sounding fake number, but Yare? What, did Kaiba get really into Stardust Crusaders recently and wanted to go on a big globe-trotting adventure with Jotaro? What am I missing here? Let's see here. Oh, it's a ship term? And it's pronounced Yer? I guess you learn something new every day. Union Controller is a level 6 Light Machine fusion monster with 2200 attack and 1900 defense, requiring a Light Machine monster and either Y Your Head or Z Zilean Tank as material, and must be special summoned from the extra deck by banishing the above cards you control. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can add a spell or trap card from your deck to your hand that mentions Union monsters in its text, and once per turn during your main phase, you can special summon a Light Machine normal monster or Union monster from your hand. Alright, it's time to break out the manga references. This one's art is basically ripped right from the panels. And it features enemy controller. Weird to have it as a monster, but I'll take it. But yeah, this card is obscene. X-Cross can equip either Yer or Zilean and get this out instantly. And while there are a number of Union monster specific support cards out there, the one everyone has gravitated to has been Union Hanger. And I mean, how could it not? It adds you a card and equips another Union to what you summon while it's on the field. And guess what? Union Controller comes with a way to summon another monster. The only real shame here is that you have to run Yer and Zilean to make this work. Otherwise, this card just fizzles out. Strange for a spell card to be so pushy about its monster lineup, but I think someone needs to get its ego in check before it gets as swollen as Kaiba's. XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon is a level 9 light fusion monster with 3000 attack and 2800 defense, requiring X-Cross Cannon, Y Your Head, and Z Zilean Tank as material, and must first be special summoned from your extra deck by banishing the above cards from your field and or grave. Once per opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can discard a card, then target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. And you can banish this card from your field or graveyard and reveal a level 8 machine fusion monster in your extra deck and special summon up to 3 of the fusion material mentioned on it from your grave and or banishment. So we're off to a good start here. Like ABC, it can be made using material from the graveyard, but its removal effect only destroys, it doesn't target. And instead of sending itself to the graveyard to get back its component parts, it banishes itself to, well, get back the components of any other Union-centered fusion monster, except its own because Hyper Dragon Cannon is level 9. Which already feels bad enough to be left out of the party considering how it wants to be a Light Machine Union monster, but to add insult to injury, Cyber Twin Dragon is a valid target for this effect. That's such a funny overlap. This means we're largely using this as a backup way to get back the ABC parts, and only if we have a Dragon Buster left in the extra deck to show off. I don't know about this one, Chief. I mean, as long as you're playing the component creatures, you might as well run this, because even though you'll be banishing a couple of them over the course of the turn for other fusions, making them unavailable for this card summon, that's thankfully a problem that Zilean Tank fixes, so yippee. But I feel like we should be capable of so much more with this. Originally, XYZ Dragon Cannon could keep blasting cards as long as you had ammo to feed it, but despite an updated paint job, the cooldown time for this got cranked up to atrocious levels. Not exactly a hyper I'm excited to spend any meter on, that's for sure. Union Activation is a normal spell card that sends a Light Machine normal or Union monster from your hand or deck to the grave, and adds a Light Machine monster with the same attack but a different original name from your deck to your hand. If you special summon 3 Light Machine monsters at the same time while this card is in your grave, you can banish this card to add a monster with 3,000 or more attack from your deck to your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon that monster. Okay, so that last effect is a pretty funny reference. Basically, since XYZ Dragon Cannon was made of 3 monsters, it can be used as 3 tributes for Obelisk the Tormentor summon in the anime. So Union activation can be used to jump scare your opponent in the same way, though you can also go with the option of grabbing Blue Eyes too, which is kinda neat. But that 3,000 attack requirement is some garbage gatekeeping. Trihorn Dragon deserves to be quick summoned too. But the real draw here is gonna be that search effect to help you put the right card in your hand, but the problem is that it sucks. Like big time. The most impactful card you'd want to be getting out of this is X-Cross Cannon, but the only valid card that you can send to the graveyard to make this work is the original vanilla X-Head Cannon. We really can't get rid of this guy, can we? Meanwhile, both the Ys and Zs and B Buster Drake have 1500 attack. So all the cards we'd rather not have in our hand? Yeah, so easy to search. But you really need to get Cross Cannon, so have fun playing your Garnet. Hope being able to sacrifice for God was worth it. Oh, who am I kidding? These people are still playing Fiendsmith. They've got tons of options. A to Z Energy Load is a normal trap card that you can activate when your opponent activates a card or effect to draw cards equal to the number of level 8 or higher Light Machine fusion monsters that you control. During your standby phase, you can banish this card from your grave to shuffle up to 6 of your banished Light Machine monsters into your deck, including a Union monster. Okay, where do we start with this one? So, we have a conditional Jar of Greed, which can occasionally draw you 2 cards, 3 if you're cracked. But not only do you have to wait a turn to use this because it's a trap card, you have to wait until your opponent has used a card or effect activation, which, to be fair, that's pretty common. I think you'll have the opportunity to use it, but being able to draw during your opponent's turn means that you could draw into some kind of hand trap. But if you have to wait until your opponent activates something, they could very easily sequence it in a way where you're not able to draw fast enough to find that answer, and it's so frustrating. And then you also have to wait until your next turn to shuffle back your banished monsters, but it doesn't even get you back any value. No draw, no search, nothing. It just puts cards back into your deck, even though several pieces of A to Z support that have been printed over the years are all about accessing your banishment. So it's just well, I wouldn't say it's a load of energy that this card has. This theme started out with so much promise. Why do these always end up like this? But that's all the grumbling from me, because that is all the new cards we've got in the TCG as of Alliance Insight. We've got some wacky cards ranging from the frustrating to the downright terrifying. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Which theme are you most excited to see support for this set? Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, be sure to click one of my videos in the sidebar to help me show up on your homepage, and be sure to share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales that even come with their own lore, and save 5% on your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media and Chibi Gohan, Nebula Navigators 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Charlie Mercury, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Dr. Reaper, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Great Big Pillock, Groog, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Marion James E. Picata, Meme King, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Neon Yami Nair, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Patpoose, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sonic 21 Blast, The Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Ally Vatnia, Animasta, Anthrak, A Random Pup, Baron Von Titty Sprinkles, Beluga Master, Blaze Rider, Blitzwolf, Chaz Ghost, Chibi Gohan, again, Christopher Fuss, again, Chris B, Cool Trainer Dark, Dr. Entity RIP, kind of again, what are you maniacs doing here? Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Herbal D, Inblink, Kale the Dragon, Lobomaru, Manga Pages, Martin Moore 2468, Natiel Lee Alexander, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Nyx, Obsidian, Pombo, Rhyme Kairos, Shwenny, Shizuki Nijimura, Simic Toadstool, Sir Knight JCB, Sphilia, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Queen of Time, The Gene, Tiger X2476, Tristan O'Meara, and Zaldreka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to see the first part of this roundup, check out the link to the video right here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.